Another day, another classic. If there is a book that captures the essence of New York in terms of its interactions, the lonely wanderings on the streets of Manhattan, then Catcher in the Rye is at the top. I'm reminded of this book every time I go to New York, especially if I visit the Radio City Ice Rink or when I'm entering the Penn Station via the staircases that go down. I always imagine myself to be Holden and try to emulate some of his characteristics, like that of observing cynically the people around me, the phoniness in them, calling out bullshit and keeping it real, basically. The mannerisms captured in this book, especially in vocabulary, always stand out to me, like using "God damn it" every sentence, or calling something that's cool swell, or all that crap. It's all, I don't know how typical New York it is, but it seems very genuine and how a angry teenager would be talking at that time. And I enjoy those parts. Quintessential New York. Now, this book always intrigued me, and I've always wanted to read it because the guy that shot John Lennon supposedly had this book with him, and he almost used it as a propaganda tool to imagine himself to be Holden Caulfield, which is our protagonist here. And his disdain for phonies is what essentially led him to kill Lennon. And it always intrigued me, how can a piece of literature, which is words on pages, be so powerful that it makes you kill another person? Do words really have that much power? Very interesting. And also, what made it even more intriguing is that the author, J.D. Salinger, never gave any interviews, as far as I recall. He never gave away rights to his book to someone else to maybe monetize it or make it into a movie or something. So that also adds a layer of mystery to it. Him becoming a recluse after writing such an influential novel that connected with so many people, especially adolescents who were also dealing with alienation, loneliness, depression. Would you not like to advertise it or maybe explain how you wrote such a compelling narrative with just one person at its center? So, again, this review is going to be all over the place, but the story focuses on Holden Caulfield. You follow him throughout. The only interactions you see are the ones through Holden's eyes, or his imaginations, or his past events that he narrates in his own words. So there are no other people giving their side of the story. It's just how Holden sees the world and what happens with him. And it's also spans only a few days, so 2 or 3 days. And I really like such stories that start and end in a very short period of time. And again, this is one of the things I like about Dan Brown books, for example. It starts in the morning and ends in 24 hours or something. Anyway, so that being said, the writing style is a bit dry, and it will take you a few chapters to get in the mood for it. Nothing dramatic is happening. There is no war or a mysterious murder that is to be solved. So if you are new to this genre, then take your time. I can guarantee you that by the end of the book, you will be begging for more of Holden's thoughts and how he sees the world. Very interesting. Another very interesting thing that I want to note right off is that if you are a sensitive snowflake who gets offended easily, this book is not for you. It can get very controversial, especially when Holden talks about women in this condescending tone of women have no brains and they are easy to manipulate and such. I also didn't like how condescending he was with the elderly people around him. I recall this one incident with the, I think, bellman at the hotel where he comments something like, look at this guy in his 60s or 70s having to do this menial, good for nothing job, licking the boots of other people. I mean, he didn't say it in as many words, but that's the subtext of it. It can also get irritating at times when Holden imagines himself to be the most intelligent person in the group always. And all of this can obviously be explained as part of his personality of being a teenage adolescent going through phases in his life, and this one is his rebel phase where he wants to counter every societal norm and show the world how it operates on phoniness, and he's the only one who talks real shit. But still, it does get tiring after a while. I myself have been that person, and when I think back on those times, I just die of cringe. So let's not focus on that now. Anyway, let's look at my notes. Ah, yes. Here we have the checklist for writing a classic American novel where you have the setting as New York. You talk about college and baseball and sex, and you have this brash young guy who isn't afraid of speaking things in his mind. He's dealing with loneliness and he thinks of himself as an outcast who is too good for the world around him, too intelligent, let's say. And hence, a lot of people can connect with him because they also think themselves to be intelligent, the weird one out, and people misunderstanding them, and you not being able to connect to other people. You think of yourself as this introverted person with a me against the world kind of philosophy, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. And when you put all of these things together, you have the perfect recipe for a novel that is going to be a classic. And the book itself becomes kind of a diary for people who are too shy to share their thoughts, and I can imagine people holding this book dear to their hearts. Okay, what else do we have? Oh yes, number five. I've just written down a list of places that the plot takes us to, and that is because one of the points the book tries to convey, especially through the museum scenes, is that things don't really change over time, not as much as we think they do, at least. For example, there is this scene where he recalls the uh, American Indians in the museum and how they are depicted on this long canoe, and how that thing will remain there for even 50 more years. This book was written in 1951, and look at the places mentioned: Newark, Penn Station, Fifth Avenue, iconic again, Greenwich, Broadway, Central Park, and the Met, Mall, Museum of Natural History, Radio City, Grand Central, taking the subway. So this is 2025 now, and I can imagine this story taking place exactly as it did at that time, today also. So there is a charm to at least the iconic places, that things don't really change over time. It's just our perception of it that changes. We are the ones who are changing. The Central Park scenes, the carousel, for example, it will still be there 50, 100 years after today. I'm sure of it. It's just maybe it goes out of fashion and people don't value it as much, but it will still be there. And there are some things whose charm will never go away. Central Park is a great example of that. That's why I use the term iconic with most of the things associated with Manhattan. In a way, the book also romanticizes this loneliness and walking alone through the dark alleys of New York kind of feel. I don't know if that is a good thing. I believe that friends are important, and obviously, being in depression and being lonely all the time, so lonely that you try calling hookers into your hotel room for $5 or $10 a throw, that cannot be nice. It sounds horrendous. But there's also that part of me that thinks that it is important to take such journeys where you are only by yourself, you have only your thoughts to give you company, and maybe you will change those thoughts with time if you think that those thoughts are wrong or somehow against societal norms. Or maybe you won't, you will remain the rebel for the rest of your life. That's also possible. But it's important to keep your thoughts in your head and ponder on them. And if you are wandering the city late at night, maybe it adds an extra flair to it, I guess. There's something romantic about that. So that was portrayed very well. Okay, what else? Oh, I also wanted to note the Antolini chapter. This is towards the end. It's insane that such a twist is only mentioned at the end of the novel, where you realize that Holden and his worldview is a product of its environment, in that he has been sexually abused, or at least dealt with harassment of some sort in his childhood, and that is why he sees things the way he does, in a very cynical, sharp, critiquing way. I mean, I still don't know what to make of it. It is pretty clear that Antolini was a pervert, right? But it's also clear that he has some smart ideas. I recall one of his lessons being that you are headed somewhere, you will find out where that is. But once you find that out, you don't have any time to waste. You won't have any time to waste because you've already lost so much time searching for that thing. So you are going to some place that is inevitable. And this is good advice for anyone who is lost in life in general, who doesn't know where his life is headed. And this can be applicable for all age groups, obviously. So when you are a smart guy who can think at such a high level, is it also possible that you are a pervert also? It didn't compute at all in my head, and that was such a great twist to put at the end. And also when Holden himself confesses that shit like this happened in his life constantly when he was a child, at least 20 times is what I recall. Terrible. If people had shown more love to him, do you think Holden would have turned out differently? If his mom and dad were not as absent, let's say, or if his younger brother hadn't died in such a tragic young age, obviously all of that is what made Holden who he is. And you can't change that. You just have to accept it. And it might be possible that Holden himself has rose tinted glasses in the way he sees Ali, his younger brother, if I'm recalling the name right. But when a person is dead, do you really think about them in a negative light? You only remember the good parts. Phoebe is the only saving grace in that sense. She represents the innocence of childhood and absolute loyalty to Holden. When Holden tells her that he's going to up and leave to California, then she says that she's also coming with him and brings this huge suitcase full of her belongings. How very cute, innocent, something that you'd die for. Insane. I wish there was someone like Phoebe in my life whom I could see and get inspiration from. Absolutely. Everyone needs a Phoebe. But maybe that's also a sign of the times. Maybe with years, when she grows older, maybe she'll also develop some of the quote unquote phoniness, and the innocence of childhood will be lost. Maybe the book itself is a reminder for us to get in touch with our inner child and to not let it die after so much bombardment from the outer world to kill it. There are so many quote unquote life lessons in this book. It's incredible. Do you remember how, towards the end of the novel, again, where Phoebe is riding the carousel, Holden thinks to himself that you have to let kids fail. And not only kids, but people in general. You have to let them fail and make their own path in life. You have to let them fail to make them learn lessons on their own. You cannot tell them, even though you have experienced hardship in your own life and you would not like other people to go through the same hardship, and you have learned lessons in your own failures and you want to protect your loved ones from the same fate, and so you again constantly keep giving them advice, which is not helpful at all. That's not how the psychology of the child works. You have to let the child fail once in a while and learn on their own, and then it will stick in their mind to hold the guardrails or the unicorns or whatever the horse had. Or how about this one? in number 10, I've written effects of loneliness in smartphones. And this again reminds me of Shakespeare, where it says something like madness and smart ones must not go unchecked, something what I think Polonius says. Anyway, how incredibly put, how well articulated is that? Crazy. Another quote unquote life lesson would be to, again, be real. How often is it that you tell people how you actually feel about them? You always have to put up this nice guy, balanced take on the issue, lukewarm opinions that aren't offensive to anyone. You take those positions just to fit in to a group, let's say, or to not veer too off course from how the world is thinking. But is that really how you feel, or is it just something that you have told yourself how you should feel so that you don't look like the outcast? How often do you call out the fakeness that surrounds you, the white lies, the pretense? Now, some of these things are necessary, they are a part of living in society, I guess, but sometimes there are those moments where I feel like I'm just done with that. I don't give a fuck, and I would up and leave to Vermont or a ranch in Colorado, as Holden said. That was again very relatable because I've lived in Colorado for quite some time, and when you look at the landscape, when you look at the ranches, I've always thought to myself, I like traveling, so I've visited these remote pockets where there is nothing but nature, a beautiful farm, a small house, some cattle, let's say. And I always thought to myself, can I just leave everything and just stay here for the rest of my life? Forget about money, goals, achievements, what society thinks of me or what you think of society. Forget all of that. Family. Let everything go and just stay in this remote ranch forever. Can I do it? Would I be able to do it even for a few days? I don't know. All of these just remain as thoughts in my head. Nothing ever materializes. And that's where the disdain in Holden's voice comes from, I believe. He also suggests the same to Sally Hayes, I believe, where he convinces, or at least explains to her, that you can't wait for the right moment to do these things. You can't wait for you to have a good career with a lot of money to then go and retire in this place in the middle of nowhere. That day is never going to come, because then you'll have even more responsibilities and you'll be wearing suits and reading newspaper columns, and you'll have a completely different lifestyle. It is right now that you should take action. What is stopping you? There is nothing stopping you. Anyway, then again, obviously, we all know that Holden changes his mind as he tells Phoebe later on that he's not leaving anyone, which probably comforts him and Phoebe and his family, I'm sure. But is it worth it? You'll never know, and there is no right answer, as the phrase goes. I also read the novel again and made some more notes, but it was mainly because I wanted to get more of Holden, as I said in the introduction to this book. I didn't want the book to end at all. I wanted Holden to again hold my hand and take me through his mind. And in my reread, I kept thinking of this one Beatles song from the Sgt. Pepper's album. It's called She's Leaving Home. I don't know if that's the title, but it's the one that goes, She's leaving home after living alone for so many years. It's that one. And it's interesting because in this song, there is a girl who is going to do what Holden wanted to do. She's going to leave her parents and her home, in which she had lived for, again, many years, most of her childhood, let's assume. And she's going to meet up with her lover, who is some bike guy, from what I recall. I don't know how that story ends, also, but it's very interesting how you signify this transition from childhood to adulthood, where you have on one side family who took care of you, and then on the other side, you are responsible for your own actions as an adult, and you take steps that your family didn't expect. How very interesting. Anyway, if I had to summarize my review of the book, it would be that it's an incredible book for anyone who feels lonely, has trouble expressing themselves, considers themselves an introvert and a recluse, and someone who is an outcast. Maybe you'll find comfort in knowing that there are other people out there just like you. You are not alone at all. And the thoughts and the loneliness and depression that you feel, other people have felt the same way. They are also tired with the fake pretense that goes around. You are not alone. And that's going to do it for my review. In all of this, I completely forgot to even mention the scene where Holden imagines himself to be this guy who is saving children from falling off a cliff, where on the other side you have the perils of the real world, and on the field is where childhood and innocence survives. And Holden is the guardian angel who is saving children from entering into adulthood and them losing their innocence. How very interesting and how well portrayed. Loved it. Thank you for listening to the book and my review.